Do top 5 dirt bikes for beginners. Okay, I'm really getting creative with these intros. Y'all already know what I'm about to say. Not a cloud in the freaking sky. It is beautiful today. Look at the dogs. Summer is right around the corner, which it's gonna suck for River because obviously she's an Australian Shepherd, so she has long hair and thick hair. But don't worry, we got her a cooling mat, so we're all good to go. Before I start today's video, I just want to say, guys, we gained 51 subscribers in under 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we were at 500 subscribers. Now we're halfway, more than halfway to 600. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys. By the way, check out the last video. Probably one of my best riding days ever. We went to this track, a legit track. We took the trail bike. Also, for next season, there's going to be so many things happening. I'm coming out with my own, not merchandise. I'm not making a website for it, but if any of you guys want some, you can always just DM me. But I'm coming out with my own Moto Daily apparel, I guess we'll call it. I'm not going to call it merchandise. We're getting new toys in the garage, and we're also fixing up old toys. So next season is going to be amazing. Now back to the question. Top 5 dirt bikes for beginners. It really all depends on your age and how old you are. So we're going to go through all the ages, all of the different scenarios, and what is the perfect starter bike for you. We're going to start really low. If you're under the age of, let's say, 5 years old, start on one of the smallest things ever. I mean, if there's any adults or parents watching this video, you're going to want your kids to obviously start on the smallest things ever. Do not put training wheels on a dirt bike. I talked about that in one of my videos. I'll link it up here. Literally get anything super tiny that has a motor in it. First thing that comes to mind would be like a Yamaha 80WP, one of the smallest motorcycles, one of the smallest dirt bikes ever. Something super simple just like that. Now, let's say you're between the age of 5 and 10, which is the age that I started riding dirt bikes, which was 10 years old. I started on this SSR 125 pit bike when I was 10 years old. Now, obviously, height is one of the biggest things ever because there's some people that are 7 years old and they're almost as tall as me. One thing that I can say, though, is that for beginners, I know 2 strokes are obviously faster than 4 strokes. I don't like 2 strokes, but I will never deny how a 2-stroke will beat my KLX 140 in a race hands down. But for a beginner, I would always recommend starting off with the 4-stroke because they're not as powerful and they're way easier to learn, especially when you're shifting. Now let's go between the age of 10 and 11 years old. Now this is my second dirt bike, which is a Kawasaki KLX 140, which is also known as a trail bike. Now before this bike, I was on a pit bike. So going from a pit bike to a trail bike is a super smooth and super great suggestion. Whether you're going from a pit bike to a trail bike or your first bike is a trail bike, trail bikes are really good, especially when you're just starting. Now, I'm not just starting riding dirt bikes. I've been riding for almost 5 years. But keep in mind, for 3 years, I was a backyard rider. So getting this bike was a good start of the open world. Trail bikes are super good. They're super reliable. And for people say that a trail bike can't be on a track, that's really incorrect because yesterday I went to a track with the trail bike and I think I did pretty good. Now let's do literally between the ages of 12 and all the way up for as long as your bones will let you ride a motorcycle. I'm 13 years old and I'm still on a 140, but my next bike is going to be this Kawasaki KX250 and it is going to be this exact bike. This bike is going to be handed down to me. Who rides this bike now? My dad. Now again, it all depends on height. But normally, if you're not Italian, you're pretty tall. Now, if you're 12 or 13 years old, I would say take a step back and go to a 140, go to a trail bike, whether it's a Yamaha, a CRF, or a Honda, or if you want a Suzuki. If you're between the ages of 12 and 13 years old and you're just starting to ride, take a step back and go to a trail bike. But if you've been riding a trail bike for a long time and you're pretty good at riding and you want your next bike that is not a trail bike, obviously you're going to end up with the 250. The next size up from this is a KLX 230, and that is literally this exact same bike, except it's taller. I don't want the exact same bike. I want to go from a trail bike to a track bike, and that's what I'm doing. Now, let's say you're, I don't know, 30 years old, or maybe even you're 21 years old, or let's say you have a driver's license and you're riding a motorcycle, but you also want to start riding dirt bikes. You don't need to do the whole process. Literally, go from one of these to one of these. It's the exact same thing. It really is. The only difference is that you're not going to be riding on smooth concrete. You're going to be riding on very, very bumpy and rocky environments. Again, it all depends on height. I am 13 years old and I'm only 5'3". One of my friends is 12 years old and he's 5'7". Height is super different. We're going off of age and experience. If you're under the age of 5 years old, you want to just start on one of the smallest bikes ever. It doesn't matter. Just something small that has a motor. If you're between the ages of 5 and 10 and you're either going from a super small bike to a pit bike, or you're starting on a pit bike, do a pit bike between the ages of 5 and 10. Pit bikes are super good. Also, I've said this a lot, pit bikes are good, especially when you're trying to learn about the machine. The thing with pit bikes is everything is super exposed, which means it's way easier to work on. If I want to take the air filter off of my dirt bike, I walk up beside it and I go like this. If I want to take the air filter off of this dirt bike, I have to unscrew a bunch of panels. I have to unscrew the air filter, take it off, and it's a much different process. Now, if you're between the ages of 10 and 12 years old, whether you're going from a pit bike to a trail bike or you're starting on a trail bike, start with the trail bike. Trail bikes are really good. Unless you have ridden a street legal motorcycle before, don't start on a 250. Because that's like a big step. It's only if, obviously, you're not going to see a 30-year-old man or woman wanting to ride dirt bikes and they're going to ride a 140. I mean, honestly, there is people on Instagram that have done that. There's a couple people that I follow and they're starting to ride dirt bikes and they legit have a trail bike or they have a pit bike. Now, if you're between the ages of 12 or 13 and all the way up, go for a 250. A 450 is just not necessary. It's really not. And I've even heard companies say you don't need a 450. You really don't. Unless you're becoming a pro racer, you don't need a 450. Unless you want a 450 to say you have a 450, get a 450. But 250s is what it is. I'll put a chart up right here in case you guys want to read it instead of listening to my big mouth blab. But that is my opinion. Again, it is all on experience and height, but today we were going based off of age. So I don't know what's been going on, but the bolts on my visor have been falling off. Especially this one bolt right here. Every time I look into my riding bag and I go to pick up my helmet, the bolt is gone. And there's times where I find it and I screw it back on and it falls off again. And this time I 100% just lost it. And I've been needing to get this one bolt for like 2 months, but it's the simple things that I just don't do. We finally got them. By the way, if any of you guys are in Valencia or near Live Valencia, if you guys ever need anything dirt bike related, whether it's buying dirt bike gear, dirt bike parts for your gear, or legit buying a dirt bike, go to this place called Ken and Joe's. And by the way, I'm not being paid to say this. I buy all of my stuff from them, whether it's riding gear or whether it's parts for my dirt bike. Whenever we need stuff for the dirt bikes for maintenance, we always go there. And I walked into their store, I told them I needed some bolts for the helmet, and they gave this to me for free. So Ken and Joe, if you're watching this, thank you guys. If you guys ever need any parts for them, go there. They'll hook you up. But let's put this on. Now there are 3 bolts for the helmet. We have one right here, and then we have one on the other side, and then we have one right in here. And we're going to replace all of them. Obviously, we don't need to take this one off because we lost it. I just never understood how that one bolt kept falling off. I mean, you have to screw these in. One thing that I could have thought about, so they have this rubber seal right here. Maybe the rubber seal broke or something in one of my crashes. I have no idea. Maybe the screw came off in one of my crashes. I don't know. I just don't understand it. So we got this one off. And then now we're going to unscrew this one right here. This screw doesn't really keep the visor on. This screw just makes it so that way you can adjust the visor, whether you want it all the way up or whether you want it all the way down or right in the middle, which is where I like it. Our visor is off. But when a visor is off the dirt bike helmet, it just looks so weird. Visors are so that way the sun doesn't get in your eyes, but really, it just makes the helmet look better. Now we are going to keep these 2 screws just in case, but since Ken and Joe's gave me the whole pack, we're just going to use all of them. Bam. So there is that seal again. These are brand new screws. And we're going to put these on. Bam, new screws on the helmet. It's the simple stuff that I don't buy. I don't know why. And like I said, we're going to save these 2 because you never know if we're going to need them again. Since we're on the topic of screws, my dad noticed something very weird with the KX250. Like every other time he rides it, he noticed that screws keep disappearing. So we have this side panel right here. We are missing 2 screws, this screw right here, and this screw. This panel is being held on by a zip tie. Now, if we go to the other side, we have 1 bolt missing right here, and this is actually what's attached to the exhaust. Good thing he definitely noticed it before this bolt and this bolt fell off. This is something really nice that he bought. It is a whole kit for the KX250, so every single screw, it doesn't matter where it is that is on that bike, it is in this kit, which I think is really cool. And this is for a KX250 or a KX450 because, let's be honest, they're the exact same thing. I'm telling you, every single screw that is on the 250 is in this box. That's going to wrap it up for this video. Stay tuned for the next video. Who knows? Next video, I might be getting sponsored.